Otter Studio. Today I'm going to show you 4 ways to tie-dye. I'm going to show you the Bullseye method, the Swirl method, the Ombre method, and the Stripes method. Before you figure out which one you want to do, it's nice to see the effect that it has. To do tie-dye, you just need some basic supplies. You need whatever you're going to tie-dye. I like to wear gloves when I'm doing it. You can wrap it in a plastic bag or some plastic wrap after we're finished dyeing it. Some rubber bands are nice to create the different effects. And you need some dye. So I just got this kit from my local craft store. This is made by Tulip. But you can also just make your own dye and put it in squirt bottles. I'll probably just keep these bottles and then make my own dye inside of them later. It's really easy to make dye and it's cheap to buy from the store, but make sure you have it in a squirt bottle so that it's easy for you to use. You can use a paintbrush if you want to use it for the ombre effect. So the first step is going to be to wash whatever you're going to be tie-dyeing. If it's something that's new, you need to wash it because there's something on it called sizing and that will get rid of it, so that the dyes cling to the fabric. If you want your tie-dye to spread and kind of mix into each other, then you want to start with this kind of damp. So to start out with, make sure you have whatever you're going to tie-dye. If you want it to blend, make sure it's wet. If you don't want it to blend, then it can be dry. Your rubber bands and your dye. You can use gloves, they're optional, but the dye will get on your hands. Method number 1 is the Bullseye method. First, I'm going to show you one bullseye and then I'll show you multiple bullseyes. Whatever you're dyeing, lay it flat down on a surface. I covered mine with plastic just so it doesn't get ruined. And you want to just pinch the middle and pull it up. So you've just grabbed the middle, wherever you want the middle of the bullseye to be, and pinched it. And then we're going to put rubber bands along it. You can do these as far apart or as close together as you want. The rubber band creates those cool transitions. All right, once you have put your rubber bands on, you're ready to add your dye and add whatever colors you want. So I'm just going to start with yellow, flip it over, get some on this side, have it blend into some green, come into the blue, and then I want that blue to fade into a really dark blue. This is like an indigo, it's really pretty. And that's it. Wrap this in a plastic bag and let it sit for 6 to 8 hours. This is what it looks like after I've rinsed it and washed it. And this is what the Bullseye method looks like when you use multiple bullseyes. To add multiple bullseyes, all you're going to do is gather the shirt in a few different spots. So if you want one up on the shoulder and then one maybe down here, you're just going to do the same thing you did before. So I'm just gathering it, and maybe I'll just do 2 this time instead of 3 rubber bands. So you're just pinching it and gathering it to make the bullseye, and then you're adding the elastics. And then if you end up, having these different pieces like this, you can choose to create another bullseye inside of those, or you can just add the dye to that and make it one color. I might just create a separate bullseye with those ones. So I'm just going to gather those pieces and then add your dye. And you'll notice when the colors mix, you'll get some really cool secondary colors. Wrap it in plastic, let it sit for 6 to 8 hours, rinse and then wash it. And this is what this one looks like. All right, the second method I'm going to show you is the Swirl method. This one looks awesome, and this always is what reminds me of tie-dye shirts. This is that classic tie-dye look, and it's really easy to create. Whatever you're dyeing, lay it flat, then you want to pinch the middle of it and start twisting. So do you see how it's starting to swirl? I'll zoom in. You want to kind of keep it flat, and then kind of use your hands to help that surrounding area. So you've kind of created like a swirl. And then you want to secure it with your rubber bands, especially to keep these sides from coming off. Just make sure you don't let it fold over, or you're not going to be able to dye these parts. So try to still keep it flat. I would secure it with 5 rubber bands maybe. Just as long as none of these pieces are falling completely off, it will be fine and it'll work. So kind of flatten it out, make sure you can see the middle. Then you're going to use your dye and you're going to dye each one of these slices. Flip it over and add your dye to the other side. Put it in a plastic bag, let it sit for 6 to 8 hours, rinse and then wash it, and this is what that looks like. And you can use as many colors as you want with this. You could just use 2 colors, you could just use 1 color. This is the Swirl method, just using 2 colors. And this is what that one looks, this is what it looks like when you just use 2 colors. The third way I'm going to show you is stripes. This one is the easiest and it's cool. I really like this technique. You can use as many colors as you would want. And all you're going to do is fan fold the shirt. So we're just gonna start from this side, just fan fold it. So I'm not folding it, I'm not rolling it over each other. No, I'm folding it like a fan. So you go one side, lift it up, place it over. I'm just lifting it so it's in these long stripes. Then you take your rubber bands and you can make the stripes. You can put as many stripes as you want on this. All right, after you put the rubber bands on, then you want to take your die and just go ahead, use as many colors as you want. I'm just going to be using 2 colors. Skip every other one, turn it over. Wrap it in plastic, let it sit for 6 to 8 hours, rinse it off and wash it. And this is what the striped method looks like. The last technique I'm going to show you is the ombre technique. So that's where one color fades into another color or fades into white. And this is the technique you might want to use a paintbrush for, just to mix the colors. And you might need a container with water in it as well. So if you're doing it with one color, you would just put that color either on the top or the bottom, and then you just use your paintbrush to brush it up. I'm going to show you what it would look like if you started at the top and then moved to the bottom. I'm just going to start with some green on the top. We're going to use our paintbrush to, number one, just make sure that it gets on the shirt. And then I'm just pulling the paint down with my paintbrush. And you want to saturate it even more than I have, so you shouldn't have any white on the top. So just get plenty of dye on it for this technique. Then you're just taking your paintbrush and you're just painting it down. Flip it over. And then we're going to fade it into this blue color. So I'm just making sure I have enough. I don't want white in there. Use your paintbrush. And again, I just have water on my paintbrush. And then as I'm moving up into the green, you'll see it's just creating a really nice blend. Flip it over. Do the same thing on this side. And then on the bottom. It needs to be pretty saturated. This technique is pretty forgiving. So luckily the dye went through, I think, enough on the back. So this is a multiple color ombre. So after you're finished, to let this one dry, I'm just gonna fold it over itself. You can keep it together like this and then put the plastic wrap over it. Cover it in plastic wrap, leave it for 6 to 8 hours, rinse it out, wash it, and this is what that looks like in the end. So this is what it looks like with one color. I'm just getting a lot of it down at the bottom. And then as you can see, it's already starting to blend its way up. You want to take your paintbrush, start in the color, and move it up. And you're just fading it with your brush. So really, really simple. Turn it over. Do the same thing on the back. And when you're folding this one up, you just want to start, just overlap the same colors. Just make sure, you're probably going to get dye on your gloves while you're doing this. Just make sure you clean off your gloves before you touch this top part. There is a lot more techniques you can do with tie-dye. These are just a few. Have fun with this project. This is really fun to do in the summertime. Remember, you can make your own dyes. You can mix the colors so that they're a different color if you would like. One thing to keep in mind is the dye will stain your clothes. So if you're doing this with a group of kids, make sure you wear aprons. These are just some more examples of shirts that I dyed. You can see the different colors next to each other and get some different ideas. Thank you so much for joining me on Mr. Otter Studio. I hope you have a wonderful day.